Hey guys, it's Mark from Periphery and you're watching Frets Well.
Well, it starts with the dream. I remember being a kid and seeing an ad for a PRS in a magazine. I think it was Guitar World or something. And this was probably 1997, 1998. And at the time, the popular guitars were shred sticks. And by shred sticks, I mean pointy, gaudy, just the more extreme looking, the cooler and the more popular it was. And I wanted one. But for some reason, it never felt quite right. And I grew up playing a Les Paul, it was an Epiphone Les Paul. So I was kind of over the traditional, normal, classy looking guitar. But then I saw a PRS in a magazine and it really resonated with me. It was right in that middle ground. Not quite the shred stick and not quite the old-timey traditional guitar look that I was used to. So my affair with those guitars and my love for those guitars started then. And for years and years, I guess I never really thought to myself maybe I should approach PRS and try and play the guitars, even though I've been in this band for quite a while now, and it's never really struck me as a possibility until 2 years ago when I contacted some of my friends who worked there. I've known a couple people at Artist Relations at PRS for a while. So I got in touch with them and I asked, would it be possible to do a different twist on a Custom 24? One that involved specs being changed, and some of the most essential specs in a Custom 24 being the scaling, and the fretboard radius, and the bridge would be changed, which kind of sounds funny to a lot of PRS traditionalists, but to me, I've always loved the PRS feel, and despite the change in specs that we've achieved with this guitar, that feel is still very much intact. It plays a lot more fluid and a lot more to my liking than any other PRS I've ever picked up. But the development of the guitar started about a year ago, and I came to them and we filled out an order form for it. It was originally just going to be a one-off model. There was no discussion of a signature guitar. I just wanted a really, really awesome Custom 24. So they built it, took a couple months, and we did the 25.5-inch scale length, the 20-inch fretboard radius, a flat radius here, jumbo DGT frets. At the time they were just custom Seymour Duncan Alpha and Omega pickups. Since then they've become my signature set with Duncan. Hip shot hardware, string through body, which is really cool. A new bridge to accommodate the string through body, which they built. It feels very similar to the standard trem bridge that they offer, just without the hole for the trem arm. Very comfy. It's just a little bit lower, I feel like, which is more conducive to my playing. And yeah, satin body, satin neck, satin everything, which I feel is very helpful on stage. I get very sweaty and tend to stick around everywhere, and this really assists me in that. And glow-in-the-dark side dots on the top of the neck, so I can see when I'm on stage. You know, it's always one thing to dream about the guitar and to talk for months and months in the design process and the specking, and I received some bits of feedback or critique from the PRS team and Paul Reed Smith himself. He gave me some feedback, maybe you should go with this, maybe you should go with that. And we eventually came down to this exact set of specs. This is in fact the first prototype that was built. I remember when I first picked it up, I knew instantly it was a home run. It felt like everything that I wanted exactly from the spec sheet, but there was some mojo about it, and one that I can only hold PRS accountable for because that's what made me fall in love with the brand in the first place. If that makes any sense, that there's just a certain feel that transcends specs, that's above specs. You know, you pick up an instrument, it just has that mojo and vibe that pulls you in. This has it, but I feel like it's more than the sum of its parts, spec-wise. I'm a big nerd when it comes to this kind of thing. For comfort and for feel, I have a little bit of an untraditional playing style, and it goes hand in hand with the specs that I like, so I'm very particular about the specs. And there were bullet points in my head for years before I even approached PRS. For years before I joined Periphery, I've always had these bullet points in my head of what my prototypical guitar would look like and sound like and would feel like. And I think if you pull any guitar nerd off the street, you could get a similar answer out of them too. If you know what you like, then you can pretty much recall it and put it on a piece of paper and have a company make it. It's just a matter of what company you want to make it. There's so many variables, but with me and my relationship with PRS, I was elated because they were very supportive of trying these new things that PRS hasn't normally done in the past, and trying them out with this guitar, and I couldn't be more appreciative of how supportive they were. For the most part, the mentality was, let's try everything you want to do and let's make it happen. Paul Reed Smith is a great dude. I love Paul. He's been very supportive from the start, but I love Paul because he's just as picky as I am. Probably way more so than I am, and I love it because he's not one of these guys who runs his company from a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean. He's some guy who's there every single day and who will argue with you over nickel frets versus stainless steel frets. He'll argue with you about scaling, and I love that. It's very refreshing to see that, and I honestly did not expect that. And a lot of a lot of the deliberation when it came down to boiling down the specs came between me and him. And I thought that was such a cool thing, because here I am arguing about specs with Paul Reed Smith, you know?
Could you tell us a few of those like little back and forths that you had?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think he had something to say about the 20-inch fretboard radius, and the fret wire as well, the color, the inlays. He had this really unique inlay idea, which I can't mention now. We may go with that sometime in the future. But little things. I'm talking about nuts and bolts of the guitar. Things way more trivial than that. We would deliberate about, and I thought that was such a cool, interesting thing. You never see that with a guy who's naturally above that in his role in the company. As you guys may or may not know, we play 6, 7, and 8-string guitars live. For the main 6-string songs in the set, I use this as my main 6. As my backup 6, which I play for certain songs like Scarlet, which is an alternate tuning, I use a normal custom 24, just a standard custom 24 in Obsidian, really cool color. For 7-string songs, I use a PRS SE7. It's a Battleship Gray one that you may have seen, and that's a cool guitar. I'll start that over. For tunings that go lower than that, for instance, our standard 7-string tuning is A flat. That holds up fine, but for lower tunings, I like to use extended scale 7-strings. They don't make those quite yet, but I use a couple other brands to take care of the 7 and 8-string songs.